All right, so here's where I want to talk a little bit about the cyber job landscape. Like, how can you? We've definitely made some good progress over the years. From that Mandiant report, we see that the global median dwell time, and dwell time, for those of you who don't know, is the time when an attack is perpetrated until it's discovered and it's taken off the network. The median dwell time is down to around 24 days now. And if you think about 10 years ago, when I first got into this, the median dwell time, I think, was in the 400, like mid 400s of days. So more than a year, like a year and a half. So that progress in 10 years is phenomenal. Also, internal detection rates, and what internal detection rates means, that means the company or the organization that was compromised is actually who discovered the compromise. That's up to 61%, which is great progress over year over year. However, there's still lots of room for improvement. So that 24-day dwell time is kind of watered down a little bit and it made to look better because ransomware attacks, it's kind of hard to hide those. Once a ransomware attack gets launched, you're locked out of your machines, everybody panics, your hair's on fire, and it's all hands on deck trying to get that thing taken care of. And other ones that aren't so obvious, the dwell time is still, more than a month and a half. And so there's a lot of room to be made there, especially with cyber defenders and threat hunting and finding folks on your network that are there, which is also exemplified here in the second bullet where, yeah, it's cool that 3 out of 5 attacks are being detected by these organizations, but 2 out of 5 of them are not. So the question that I often get is, well, if the organization's not detecting it, who is? Well, you have internet service providers, you have government agencies, you have folks who are kind of watching trends, and you also people will find evidence online, stuff gets posted and then you find out you have a compromise. And so you didn't discover it by finding the folks on the network. You found it because internal private stuff was posted somewhere else. So that's a crazy thing to think that, still 40% of those are not being detected by those organizations. Also, you hear about the cyber job shortage, and this comes from cyberseek.org. And I've got that link there also in the list of links. So this is an organization that's kind of created to help both job seekers and folks who are looking for people in cyber. And they do lots of crunching of positions and help you try to figure out where the demand is. Over here on the right, you can see there's a map of it by state, what total job openings are. And they've got lots of these kind of heat map kind of things where you can change it to by county. So if you're like, hey, my state has a whole bunch of cybersecurity jobs according to this, but I've been applying around town and haven't found anything, you can go by county and see where the cybersecurity jobs are in those states. And we see that New York and California, of course, those are places where there's lots of industry, financial industry, tech places. So, that's great. Why do Florida and Texas have so much? Well, there's been sort of an exodus. That's another way COVID kind of affected things is, when people could work from home, all of a sudden folks are like, hey, why don't I work from home from a state where they don't charge state income tax? So you see Texas and Florida had a pretty good increase. There are lots of tech businesses there and places that are moving there. Tesla just moved there even. So you can kind of see where those jobs are. So if you live in North Dakota and you're looking for cyber jobs, there aren't a whole lot. So you can use that to your advantage and be a big fish in a small pond, or you could move to a bigger pond where there are more opportunities. So a couple of facts that I wanted to point out that I found over from CyberSeek was the Department of Homeland Security right now has 1,700 cyber vacancies that haven't been filled. There are 36,000 vacancies across federal, state, and local governments. And this is an important one right here. There's 16 times more federal IT workers over 50 than there are younger than 30. And so what's scary about that is it means that as those folks start to retire, we need to replace them. Yeah, Alaska is on this map. It's down at the bottom left. You can go to the link and see it on your computer. It's a little bit easier to view there. But so that's kind of scary. And that critical infrastructure that we were talking about, some of that still runs older programming languages that younger folks aren't learning. People aren't learning Ada and COBOL and Fortran, Pascal. they're learning newer stuff that some of that older infrastructure doesn't operate on. And so you have to have experts that can run that. And so we really need to replace those folks as they retire. And then in industry, it's insane. They're tracking around almost 500,000 total vacancies. All right, so pulling from CyberSeek, over on the right-hand side, here's another a tool that they have where it shows you kind of entry-level job titles, mid-level, and then advanced level. Up in that top right-hand corner, it says Cybersecurity Manager. You can't see that because I've clicked on Penetration and Vulnerability Tester, which is what a lot of people, especially my students, will come and say, yeah, I want to be a penetration tester. Because on TV, it looks really sexy and cool because you're like, wow, it takes 3 minutes and you've like hacked the NSA or the FBI. And in real life, it's a lot of staring at hex and reverse engineering code and trying a million different things that don't work before you find the thing that does work. And you don't, it's really sad sometimes because you don't know if the attack that you're launching doesn't work because they've secured it, or it doesn't work because you've formatted something wrong, or you have a character missing. So it's tough work, and a lot of people will start trying to go down that road and realize it's hard and kind of bail. But I've clicked on that to see the entry-level job titles that could lead to that, and it can have you move laterally to some of the other mid-level titles, and then the job titles over an advanced level that you'd go to. Not a lot of people go from being an expert pen tester up to cybersecurity manager. It's not that you can't do that. It's just that usually people that make it as pen testers are pretty technical, and they don't really want to move away from that and give that up and go into management. But we do need good managers who can translate between the technical people and executives. Cybersecurity consultant that covers a wide range of things that you might do. So analysts do things like look at logs. They look at, for network traffic, they can look at event logs on computers and security logs on computers. There's a whole lot of things that analysts would do. They could go in to systems and look for vulnerabilities. They could be doing scans on those to find known vulnerabilities that are open and settings that need to be changed. Consultants, same way. It could be actually looking at cyber policy and helping you work on your acceptable use policy or some of the IT procedures that you have. Cybersecurity manager. This is kind of an advanced level where you are managing folks who are doing the IT things, and it's very important that people that are in this job. The reason it's listed as advanced level is because you have to know. Well, I'm not going to say that there aren't cybersecurity managers out there that don't know, but you should know a fair bit about the technical stuff in order to do this management, because you're making decisions that affect the folks who are on the front lines doing things. And if you're up there making decisions without the requisite knowledge, it's really bad. If I ask you what kind of material should I use to build my house with, and you really don't know much about materials, and you don't know enough to start asking questions like, where's the house going to be built? What kind of foundation do you have? What soil is it on? How tall is it going to be? These are lots of questions that you need to ask in order to make the right decision. And if you have a manager that doesn't know that, it's kind of scary. And sometimes the wrong decisions are made. And that itself can introduce vulnerabilities that lead to these compromises. Software developer, you guys, I'm sure you know what that is. Systems engineer are folks that help build systems. And sometimes that's combining systems, finding ways to combine systems together. Network engineer, they're the folks that come in and design your network. So how is data going to flow? How is it going to be processed? How is it going to be accessed? It's everything from that high level stuff, making those logical network maps, to actually physically designing the layout, where the cables are going to go, where the switches are going to be, etc. Penetration and vulnerability tester, we talked about that a little bit, but these are folks who act like they're the bad guys. They think like bad guys, and they try to attack your stuff. So you figure out, so you can figure out where your areas that need to be fixed are. There was a show that I used to watch probably about 15 years ago called It Takes a Thief, and it was these two guys that were very successful burglars who had turned to be good guys. And they had a consulting business where they would go around and they would try to break into people's houses. And then if they were successful, they would come back to them with a report that says, hey, here's how we were able to break into your house and steal your stuff. And then the people could go and get their houses more secure. And they did that with businesses, et cetera. So that's kind of the idea here is these folks, they try to break into your stuff or break your stuff. And then they give you a report that says, hey, here's how your stuff broke. Here's things we tried that didn't work where you're doing a good job. And this is for web applications. It's for weapon systems. It's for actual physical items that you create and sell. Everything should have some sort of outside external testing, people trying to attack it. Cybersecurity specialist is another blanket term that's used all over the place and can mean a lot of different things. And then incident and intrusion analysts, these are the folks, so you guys were asking about attribution. And so incident and intrusion analysts, these are the folks that are called in when you know there's something that's happened, and they're actually looking through those logs, trying to figure out how it happened, when it happened, what systems were affected, who did it, how you can fix it so it doesn't happen in the future. All right, so how do you make your resume stand out? Well, I see a lot of resumes. I see resumes from folks that we're thinking about hiring. I see resumes from friends. I see resumes from students who ask me for help. And one thing that I prefer is I want to see more than anything what skills you have. And so I recommend that after you do the normal stuff where you put your name, your contact info, make it stand out right there, exactly front and center. What are your skills? And you want to list things that you do actually have skills in. If somebody asks you about it, you'll be able to talk about. I can't tell you how many times somebody said that Python is in their range, and I'll ask them, okay, what kinds of things have you done with Python? It's like, well, I made this program that you could guess a number between 1 and 100, and it would guess a number, and you told it higher or lower, and then it would eventually find your number. Oh, okay. What else? Oh, that's it. That was just one of my class assignments. So don't put things on here as skills. It's something that you have very limited experience with, and you're not going to be able to talk about. If you want to put Python on there as a skill, great. Go outside and find things you can do with Python. You can go to codecombat.org, and that's a cool place where you can play a game with Python where it gives you a little scenario. It's like, hey, you've got this guy, and he's got to get around and get these gems without the bad guys seeing him. And you can do things like hero.move left and hero.move right, and you can move it around using Python or JavaScript. So go out there, get a project, say, hey, I want to do this, I want to learn this, or take a Python course somewhere. I'll talk about some free resources in just a little bit that you can go to. So get those relevant skills out there. I want to see certifications that you have. I want to see what degrees you have. After that, what outside activities are you engaging in? So I really, you have to show that you have a passion for this. You cannot be successful in this domain if it's something you're doing just to cash a paycheck. You have to actually care about it, and you have to do things in your own time. And when it gets to the point where work doesn't seem like work, that's when you'll know that you've gotten it. And doing cyber capture the flag competitions, there's tons of those out there that are free. Some of them can be hard to get entry into, but I'll show you some other resources that you can start with, some places that you can go that make learning fun. But you have to be doing outside activities. We'll talk a little bit also down here at the bottom, associations that you can join, clubs at school, get involved with your friends. It's a team sport. It really is. And so working together with other people really, really helps and makes it fun. And don't forget soft skills. It doesn't help me. In some cases, it's okay to have somebody who's really, really good reverse engineer, but cannot communicate with you at all. And you certainly can't put them in front of customers. You can have a certain number of those folks that you just stick in a room somewhere and don't ever show to anybody and put them in the basement, right? But it's really helpful if you have folks that not only can do the work, but can do good documentation, can talk to me about what happened and explain it to me. Like I love that The Office when Michael Scott says, "Explain this to me like I'm 5." And that's exactly what you have to do a lot of times, because you're talking to people who are not experts in the field. They don't understand the acronyms. They don't understand the technology, and they need you to be able to break it down for them. So don't underestimate those soft skills, and don't forget to put good written and oral communication skills in that list of skills you have. And don't prove yourself wrong by having a resume that's full of spelling errors and inaccuracies. Get it right. Make sure the dates are right. Make sure that you've spelled things right. Have other people look at it, and people that, you know, the friend that tells you that your shirt's ugly, you know, that's the friend that you need to look at it, because they'll be honest with you about things they see there. And then show it to some other professionals as well. That's a great thing to do, because not only are they looking at your resume and know you're looking for jobs now and can pass it around to people, but they can give you feedback about what they're looking for. Okay, certifications. This is probably the biggest question that I get asked from people is, what certification should I get? And that question needs a ton of other questions. What do you want to do? So this is a website that someone put together. The link's down at the bottom, and we can post that link in here, and we can give you, maybe somehow distribute those links a little bit later. But this guy attempted to map out all the certifications he could find in cybersecurity and kind of organize them. So over here on the right, where you see security operations, that's like forensics, incident handling, pen testing, exploitation. You see that there are certs that kind of align with that. So if you want to do security architecture and engineering, I'm not going to tell you to go over there and get your OPST, right? That doesn't make any sense. If you're somebody who wants to do security and risk management, I'm not going to say, hey, get your OSCP. Well, never mind. I'd recommend OSCP to everyone. That's a not what you're interested in. Don't go get that cert. A good one. Well, on the next slide, I'll show, you know, if you're looking to get into government, what some good entry level ones are. But this is also organized so that things at the top are like higher level and down at the bottom are lower level. So the one that a lot of people ask me about is, hey, should I get Security Plus? Security Plus is a great entry level certification. And that certification, I want to make sure that you understand that getting that certification doesn't prove anything to me except that you can memorize some stuff and take a test. There's not a lot of hands-on stuff that you have to do for that. But it's not useful for just having the certification, because I'm going to look at that and say, hey, that guy knows what he's talking about, or that gal knows what she's talking about. I've known plenty of people with Security Plus that knew nothing or were less than nothing about cyber. What the value of that Security Plus is, it now makes you compliant for some contracts with government jobs. Now, they might get mad at me because, for one, I've kind of ran over time, but also this is not supposed to be about Test Out. I don't work for Test Out. I never have. But whenever I talk to people about certifications, I always say, hey, Test Out has an awesome program. And if you do Test Out Security Pro, there's a couple of cool things that come with that. It's relatively inexpensive as far as certification prep goes. Well, and they offer this cert that you can get with that fee. But they give you access for a long time. This is not something you can just dump right into your brain in a week. And that you see all these boot camps for Security Plus that'll charge you $6,000. It's kind of ridiculous. But you know, a smaller fee gives you access over a longer period of time with videos, have professional actors, practice questions, those things. You need time for this stuff to sink in. And I really like Test Out because of that. And I use it in my classes because I tell my folks, my students, hey, you get Security Plus, sure, but get Test Out Security Pro as well and list it on there. And people say, hey, what's that? And you say, well, it's like Security Plus. It covers the same material, but it actually makes you go in and do the stuff to prove that you know how to do it, not just so you know that it needs to be done, right? So before they get too mad at me, I'll stop talking about putting a plug in there for Test Out, but I really do like them, and I do recommend some of the stuff that they have. So other factors that you might consider are how much it costs. So I've got another slide here that I want to talk about. So what do you want to do? We talked about that. What level of job are you targeting? So if you're targeting an entry-level job, you don't necessarily need to start right away with CISSP or some of these other ones. You can go for Network Plus or Security Plus, CCNA, those kind of entry-level certificates. But don't think that that's going to make you a cyber expert. You're going to have to keep moving up and getting more certifications and more education. What resources do you have? Some of these can be kind of pricey. If you look at the GAC certifications, they're not cheap. But SANS has great courses. They have great certifications, but they're going to cost you several $1,000s. And so you really need to look at that. Can you get discounts through your school? do you have an existing job that will pay for those certifications? Sometimes they'll pay for the courses and you got to pay back if you don't pass the exam, or sometimes they'll pay for them and then you get it, but then you have some sort of service obligation. You have to stay with them for 6 months or a year, and you have to kind of balance that and say, hey, is that good? If a lot of students I talk to don't have 4 or 5 grand just laying around. If we go back up here, Security Plus, last time I checked, I think it's like $350 just to take the exam. But like I said, there are boot camps out there that they'll charge you thousands of dollars for a week. But if you go to OSCP, for instance, it's a great certification. It takes a long time. It's got a 25% pass rate for that exam. The exam for that is, it's a 24-hour. You have 24 hours to compromise 5 boxes, 5 machines, and then you have 24 hours after that to do your documentation and write everything up for your report. So it's very intense and it's tough. And so that is a certification. If you have your OSCP, I know that you have skills, both written and technical skills. So that's a very useful certification to get. That's going to cost you $1,150 for 3 months of access and 1 attempt at the exam. Last time I looked at it. They have a new offering. If you get access for a year, it's called PWK 365, I think. You get access for a year and you get 2 exam attempts. And that's around $2,000. So if you don't have that kind of time or money laying around, then you have to factor that kind of stuff in when you're looking at these certifications. But that's a great one. That OSCP is a great one if you want to get a certification that'll tell people you actually have skills. If you want something that's done by the CompTIA folks, they've got Pen Test Plus that's way down there as more of an entry level pen testing kind of thing, and that will definitely be a cheaper option. But seriously, look in to see if your employer would pay for it. And then when people ask me how valuable certs are, I usually ask them, what level of effort does it take? So I know people that have these little certifications that they get from like watching an hour webinar or something. If I hand you all a certification after this, what is that worth? It's not really worth a lot. But if you have something that has an exam that's got hands-on stuff, that makes it worth more. So the level of effort that it takes to get it means that it's not getting watered down. High school diploma used to mean something 30, 40 years ago, and now it really doesn't, because everybody gets it. It's not super hard to get in most cases. So high school diploma doesn't get you a whole lot anymore. If you have a college degree, especially a degree from a university that people respect for that domain, that actually means a little bit more. All right. So I don't have to talk about this a long time. I do want to point out for this graphic from Cyberseek, where it shows the orange line is the number of people who hold that certification. And then down below is the number of current job openings that request people have that certification. Now, I will say it's a little bit misleading when you think about it, but it doesn't report on here existing jobs where people have this certification. So some of those folks that have Security Plus are already in jobs. That's not 177,000 people without jobs and have Security Plus. That's people that have that cert. And then 44,000 is current job openings. So there are a lot of job openings that require Security Plus. Then you look at some of these other certifications, and it shows you, the number of job openings that are out there. So it's certainly, something like CISSP, where 106,000 job openings and only 90,000 people reported by the company that makes that cert that have it. There's definitely a higher demand there. And you can see, at Cyberseek, you can look at some of those things. Over on the left-hand side, I've shown you the DoD 8570. So in order to be on certain government contracts that have to do with cyber, you have to have particular certifications. And it's hard to kind of read that. You can go to the URL that's here, and we can post that as well. Oh, it's already up there. So I've kind of pulled some things out. So entry level, these jobs, and I've combined with the entry level classification that's on that document with some typical titles that are in there, and it shows you underneath what certifications you have to be able to do those on government contracts. And so that's what I said before about Security Plus not having any inherent value. You tell me you got your Security Plus, that doesn't to me say, oh yeah, this guy knows his stuff or this gal knows her stuff, but it does say to a contractor, hey, this is someone I can hire and they're ready to go on a contract right now because they've got this certification. All right. So in the interest of time, I'm gonna move on here. So self-learning is really important. My students, the first thing I tell them, the first day of class, I tell them that this class alone is not going to be enough. Getting your degree alone is not going to be enough. You have to go out there. You have to find things that you're interested in. You have to go do it on your own. So malwaretrafficanalysis.net is a real cool place. Somebody took a lot of time to put really cool exercises together, and they've also got walkthroughs of those exercises so that if you have trouble doing them, you can go take a look at them. I recommend trying to do the exercises first, and then when you've gotten to the point where you're like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it farther, go look at the answers, and then they have a lot of similar exercises on there. So try to find an exercise that looks similar and see if you can do that one without looking at the answers. So this is something that takes your own time. You're not going to get a grade in class for it. You're not going to get a certification for it, but it will help you learn to do some traffic analysis and identify malware and use Wireshark. And these are valuable skills. When you go to a job interview, if you can't talk to me about any, if I say, well, tell me about your malware analysis skills or your network traffic skills, then you can start talking about, yeah, I use Wireshark, I do this, and I've done these things. You can talk to me about things you've actually done. That's really important to me, to see the passion that you have. Right? Hackthebox.eu and try Hack Me. These are if you're looking in pen testing, these are good places to start. There are other resources out there as well. If you're looking at web application testing or website penetration testing, there's Web Security Academy from Portswigger. CyberArea's got a lot of free resources out there. You can go check that out. Cisco Packet Tracer is an excellent tool. I use it in my networking class, and I have them build a functional enterprise network with voice over IP phones, with guest Wi-Fi, with everything. And you can do that without having to buy all that equipment. You can do that virtually. And Cisco Networking Academy is great there. And then they have SANS Cyber Races, which is a great place to go and get started learning some of the basics of cybersecurity. And I highly recommend that. But NIST.gov has a website where they've got some resources for you to get started if you're interested in that. And I cannot overemphasize how important it is to take responsibility for your own education and go out there and find things and do them. And then networking, very quickly going to talk about this. There are lots of organizations out there that are designed to help you make contacts with folks, to get mentors, to find people who might be experts in other areas and can help you out. So I've listed a few of the organizations. Some of them are aimed at trying to help folks who traditionally have been underrepresented in cybersecurity, like minorities and women. And then there's school clubs. If you're at a university and they don't have a cybersecurity club, see if you can get some folks together that would be interested in getting in doing that. And even if all you guys do is get together and do some of those other things, it's really fun to get together and do things as a group, because you might miss things, and missing a tiny little thing like where a colon is can really screw stuff up in cybersecurity and programming. So getting together and having extra sets of eyes and other people help tackle the problem, not only does it help you build those bonds that you'll use later, like right now, folks that I worked with at NSA, folks that I have been acquainted with through the military, folks that I was in school with, they're at Facebook, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all over the place. So that can help me get jobs later if I'm looking for it. But it also, if I have problems, so if Microsoft Teams is doing something dumb, I'll send it to my friend that I know from who's over at Microsoft, who they send to military cyber exercises, and he'll get me pointed to the right person to ask me some questions. So it's very useful to do that networking, and organizations is a great place to start that. All right, I know that I've kind of gone over time, but I do want to give you guys some time for questions. So I will stop sharing my presentation. I've given that to Justin, so we'll figure out how to get that distributed to you guys. And I'll turn my camera back on and be quiet so you guys can ask questions.
Great, thank you, DJ. That was very informative. And yes, we will send out the recording. We will send out the slides with all the links. So look for your email inbox. So keep the questions coming. We've already got a few that have come in. The first question here: is there anything like CyberSeek for Canada?
I'm not going to say no, but I will say I don't know of it. So this is when you definitely want to get your Google Foo skills out. and see if you can find it. But I do not know of anything. Sorry.
Great. Okay, this question's been asked actually several times. If a master's degree in information systems is helpful, or if it will help get a job.
And so I'll go back to my earlier comment where having that piece of paper is helpful in some ways. It's helpful because sometimes there will be particular positions that say, oh, you have to have this. But having that piece of paper doesn't necessarily mean that you have expertise or you're good at what you do. A master's degree in cybersecurity means that you've taken some classes. And it's at some places that to get your information systems degree, you don't have to take actually very many classes that show that you've gotten exposure to technical things. And that's okay for some jobs. If all you want to do is be a manager that doesn't have anything to do with cybersecurity, it's okay to just know the basics of information systems, and then you get started and work your way up to be a manager later. But I highly recommend that in addition to having that degree, you have other things that you're doing on the outside and other certifications that can help show that you're passionate about this. For my team, I want to hire people that I know are going to do good things for me, and I'm not going to have to micromanage them. I'm not going to have to worry about them embarrassing me in front of customers because they don't know what they're talking about. So getting that experience outside, talking with other folks, finding a mentor, that's a really important step. So yes, having a master's is great, but that alone is not enough.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next question. What is cybersecurity engineering?
Right. So when I talked a little bit before about folks that make products for Internet of Things and that are internet connected, they really aren't concerned as much with cybersecurity as they are with functionality and ease of use and customer experience. So cybersecurity engineering, the way that I interpret it, and it might be different for whoever posts the job, but generally when we say cybersecurity engineering amongst my circles, we mean from the very beginning, when you're designing a system, you design it keeping cybersecurity in mind. So it's not after the fact like a lot of folks do, like, oh, we got compromised. We had a flaw in our webcams, our internet webcams that allowed people to have access to them, or the baby monitors that we made let random people get on and talk in scary voices, which actually happened. This after the fact going in and trying to fix things is not cybersecurity engineering. That's like cybersecurity emergency patch jobs. But cybersecurity engineering is starting from the beginning and including cybersecurity folks in the design of the product so that you can make sure when it rolls out, it's as secure as possible.
Excellent. Okay, this is kind of a multi-part question. Someone was asking, so with 465,000 vacancies in the industry and 36,000 in the government, they're wondering why more remote workers are not hired. And then kind of adding to that, they were talking about it's a problem that the requirements asked for on entry-level jobs are kind of high. And so there doesn't seem to be too many jobs out there for someone with zero to little work experience. And then do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so what I would say about that is, I've got a friend who's years old and has never been married, has been in one serious relationship his whole life. And the reason is because what he expects of the person who, oh, by the way, he lives with his mom. What he expects of the person that he's going to marry, the expectations are really high. They've got to be a supermodel. They've got to love somebody who may not necessarily be physically fit or necessarily, be a great provider. There's lots of requirements that he has for this person that are unrealistic. And I see that a lot in these job descriptions. And to be honest with you, as somebody who's had to put out those things before, they get these job descriptions from all sorts of different places. Sometimes people in HR put them together. There are companies out there that give you generic boilerplate job descriptions for job titles. And when they throw them out there, they don't actually look at them. So I would say just apply. Don't let what it says on the job description stop you from applying for jobs. Just apply for them. Make sure you have a good resume that pops. There's a person that works on our team, and she originally, we accidentally scheduled her, and we really thought, oh well, since we scheduled her, we'll just do the interview. But we've already found the few candidates that I think we had 60 or so applicants for just a couple of positions, and we'd already chosen our top ones. Like, oh, here's who we're going to hire. But we interviewed her just on a whim. She had zero experience really in cybersecurity, but we interviewed her because she had a great resume, and she just blew us away. And she ended up getting the job, and she's on our team now, and is a great addition to our team. So I would say don't let what it says in that job posting stop you from applying. Did I answer all the parts of that question? Were there some more parts to that?
Yeah, I think so. That was great. Thank you. Let's see. This is a good question. Is there anything in the cybersecurity field that not many people want to do? I think Tim was thinking, which way should I go? That's the least, the least competition.
Documentation. Documentation is most people's least favorite part of most jobs, right? So it's very important in cybersecurity that you document the process that you go through. If you're someone who's going in to secure a network, you want to make sure that you're keeping track of the changes that you make, because if all of a sudden people can't get to the website, you want to be able to, number one, look back and prove that it wasn't you, because here's the things that I did. Number two, you want to be able to roll back those changes if something went wrong. And it doesn't help if you go and pretend to be a bad guy and hack somebody's network and you get in if you don't document what you tried and what you didn't try. And there's also policy. Some people really enjoy policy and writing policy and interpreting policy, and others just really don't. Most people really don't. So documentation and policy are what I'd point to that like a lot of people don't like. There's a huge demand for folks who do compliance as well. So there's a list of best practices in cybersecurity, and these settings should be this way and that way. And a lot of people have those jobs but don't really enjoy them, where they go out to people's networks and they do these scans to see if they're compliant, and then they have to be the bad guys that tell them, hey, here are all the things that you need to fix on your network. And sometimes you're not welcomed by the people that have the network, because they feel like you're there to say they're doing a bad job. And so compliance, policy, and documentation, those are the top three I'd say that people don't really enjoy. Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, this is a question. This person says they have a lot of different certifications. They also have experience on TryHackMe. If they're working towards the OSCP.
Okay.
And so the question is, can you get a job as a pen tester without OSCP?
You absolutely can. You certainly can. There are plenty of people who are pen testers without it, but OSCP is one of those certifications that if you have it, it guarantees me that you have those skills. So your opportunities as a pen tester will open up dramatically if you actually have that OSCP. And I know some people that will not hire pen testers if they don't have it, but that's not everyone. So you can certainly get a job in pen testing, and pen testing is a humongous field. There's web application testing. There's, software. There's so much stuff that's out there in pen testing. So yes, you can absolutely get it without OSCP. OSCP is like a general one, but then they have even higher certifications that are focused on other things. There's a certification that Offensive Security offers for wireless, for instance. And so absolutely look out there, see about it. But if you're working toward your OSCP, absolutely, I'd say continue on that path and get it. And you can look for pen testing jobs in the meantime. The demand is out there, and some companies will hire folks who show an interest in it and show promise, and they'll give you some on-the-job training.
Perfect. Okay, this is a good question about experience. If someone wants to get an internship in a cybersecurity firm, do they need any certification or type of training before they can get that internship, or can they learn on the way?
Well, internships typically are aimed at folks who are entry level, who may not necessarily be bringing a lot of skills to the table. However, internships can get pretty competitive. Here in Huntsville, we've got a lot of defense contractors. We've got a lot of folks who have internship programs. But think of yourself as a person who has to hire an intern, right? The idea about an intern is that they don't have any experience. But if you get an application from someone who already has several certifications, you interview them and find out that they do cyber capture the flags in their own time. They've taught themselves to program and do traffic analysis. Like, why would you not grab that person? Why would you not take a person who exceeds what you expected out of an intern? So make yourself attractive for those by doing some of the things we've talked about. Get in organizations, make contacts. A lot of the jobs I've gotten because people have seen me do well in the job that I currently had, and then that paved the way for me to come over. So networking, getting contacts, and then doing things outside and having a good resume. The resume's job is to get you an interview, and then from there, the resume getting you the interview will come from having people look at it and getting things to add to it that are attractive to employers. The actually showing them you have passion for it will come from doing things within cybersecurity that you're passionate about on your own time.
All right, perfect. Well, I think we'll probably just ask one more question and then we'll wrap it up here. So this person was wondering if there are any book recommendations that are open to anyone for offensive and defensive kind of to combat attackers that you can do like on your personal network or whatever.
That's a great one. And it's really broad because exactly what are you trying to do? Like overall cybersecurity, just getting an intro. There's a book. I think the most expensive is the brand new hard copy that you can get from Amazon. It's by Hovermale. His name's really hard to spell, so I can maybe get that to you, and then you can kind of push that out.
Perfect. That'd be great. We can send it out with the recording and everything. So
yeah, sure.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and jump back on here. So this was a great hour and a half. So thank you so much, DJ. We appreciate you taking the time and the preparation to give us this presentation. For everyone who's on here, remember, we will send you the recording. We will send the slides and all the links and everything. So just watch your email for that, and we'll send that out in the next day or so. So if you are interested in getting, if you're an instructor and you're interested in getting access to our courseware, that will be an option as well on that recording page. And so thank you all for coming, and we'll also don't forget, we are doing another webinar next week, and it's on, shoot, now that I mention it, it's on getting kind of the young people interested in cybersecurity. So for those of you teachers, make sure you tune in next week for that. We'll have a lot of good insights there as well. So thanks all for coming, and we'll see you next time.